Welcome to the Learn to Sew Academy channel. Please remember to subscribe. Thank you.
Welcome. In this video, what we're going to be doing is an off-shoulder top, and this is going to be somewhat similar to an off-shoulder top that I did a while back, and I'm going to link that in this video for you to see. So what I'm going to do first is I want to cut out the amount of fabric that I need from this, and the length I'm going to be using for this top is 33 inches, but because it's off shoulder, I'm going to take off 7 inches. 6 inches is the standard that you take off when you do your off shoulder, but then I'm taking an additional 1 inch because I'm going to be adding some different fabric, a black plain fabric. I'm going to be adding it on the top, so, and that's going to be around 1 inch because I'm going to be using a 1 inch wide elastic at the neckline area. So that's why I'm going to be taking off 7 inches. So that's going to be 33 inches less 7. That will give me 26. But then I'm going to add my sewing allowance, and altogether I'm adding 1.5 for my sewing allowance. So that's going to bring me to 27.5. So I'm going to just cut off that 27.5. And now, before I cut this, I just want to explain what I folded over here. I'm going to be cutting the front and the back together. What I did here was I first folded into 2, and then I folded again to give me these 4 layers. And when I folded, I put into consideration how wide I want the blouse to be. And for this measurement, I'm using 30 inches. So it depends on what you want. Now, when I say 30 inches, that's 30 inches in the front, 30 inches at the back, altogether 60 inches. To decide the measurement to use over here, it depends on how free you want the top to be. So in this case, again, I'm using 60 inches all across. So, and another thing you want to do though is you want to also put into consideration the hip measurement. Based on that, that will also help you to know how much extra room you want to put in your top, because you don't want a situation where it becomes too tight at the hip area, especially because there is not going to be a zipper here. So now I'm just going to connect this line here, and then I'll cut. Next thing to do is to shape the armhole. To shape the armhole, I'm gonna come here where I have an opening. This is the complete fold here. This is going to be the center, so we're not shaping from here. So we're gonna come to this other side, and what I want to do is I'm just going to have, I'm gonna measure 4 inches that way. Now the way this is going to be is I'm going to have a sleeve that is going to be open in the center, right in the front. It's going to split in the front. That's what my sleeve is going to look like, and it's going to slightly overlap in the front right there. So, but the way I'm going to cut this is the way you would regularly cut your off shoulder. And again, see my other video, you will see the diagrams that really explain what we're doing right here, and I'm going to link that in the description, and I'll put it also on this video if you're using a mobile device. So I'm just doing 4, and this 4 is like a standard. Some people will use 3, 3.5. It's totally dependent on your preference. And then I'll now measure for my length for the armhole. So remember that we took off 6 inches at the beginning. So when we want to do our armhole as well, we're going to consider that 6 inches that we have taken off. So depending on what you decide to make your armhole, in this case, I'm going to be using 12 inches. If I take off that 6 inches, like right here, I'm starting from 6 inches, meaning that I'm taking off the other 6 inches. And then this is my 12 right here, but I'm going to add some allowance. So right here, I'm putting 1 inch of allowance. So that's giving me 13 altogether. So what we're going to do now is just to link this. We just want to curve that all the way down here. And as always, if you have a curve ruler too, you can use that to help you to do this better. If you prefer to use a curve ruler, you can use that. Otherwise, you can practice using your freehand. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to cut this out. And then I'm going to open the sides so that I have two different pieces. When I start to sew, that's when I'm going to measure and cut the black fabric that I'm going to have at the top of this. And that will be after we add the sleeves. So right now I'm going to cut the sleeves. For the sleeve, what I'm doing here is I folded this into two and then I folded again. Now this is going to be very free sleeve. So I'm not going to really be measuring a particular sleeve round. I just want it to be free. And then I'm going to be shaping it to give it a kind of curve in the front. So what I'm using here is, this is 15 by 16 and a half after I folded it. What I'm going to do now is I want to do something similar to what I did when I was cutting the main body of the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for that 4 inches again, just like what I did over there. So I'm going to do this 4 inches. But now I need to know what my armhole is right here. So you want to measure that armhole. And I have 9.5 here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look for 9.5. When I start from my mark right here, I'm going to look roughly for 9.5 and it ends around here. So now I'm going to connect this. Now, if you've seen my other video, you'll see the difference. This is a little wider than what I used in the other video. And that's because the sizes are different. And then the sleeve is going to be very different from the other video. So now that I have this, I'm going to cut that out. Like I said, I'm going to split this in the center front. And I'm going to be lining this sleeve with the black fabric, the same black fabric that we used around the off shoulder area, the neckline. I'm going to line it with this so that when it opens, the black is showing on the inside and this fabric is showing on the outside. When I'm slanting the front, I'm going to curve it. So what you can do is you can just eyeball it and say, okay, this is good enough for you. Something like that. Or you can come and say, okay, I want to make 3 inches here or 4 inches. However open you want it, and then you can connect it all the way to over here if you don't want to overlap it, and then you just cut it all the way there. But because I'm going to overlap it, I'm going to let it come all the way to the end. And I'm just doing like a little curve from that point. And then I'm just going to cut that. And as you do this, also remember you're going to have a seam allowance there too. So you want to put that too into consideration. And these are 2 sleeves, so I'm going to open this part right here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the black fabric and I'm going to just cut exactly the same thing that I have here. So this would be one sleeve, this would be the other sleeve. So I'm going to be overlapping it like this. So it depends on your preference. If you want it to be even more open, you can cut it a little bit more to make it more open. So I have 4 pieces for the sleeve. So I'm folding this into half. I'm gonna try and cut all the 4 pieces together. And I'm going to use this like my pattern. And I'm just gonna cut this and then I'll have the 4 pieces. So I have all the 4 pieces. And that completes the cutting of this. So I'm going to show you how to join them together. To start sewing, I'm just going to take one of these printed fabric and I'll take one of the solid colored fabric. And I want to do the wrong side, facing wrong side. Now this right here is the part that's going to be joined to the main body of the blouse that we're making. And this right here is where I'm going to have it joined to the extra strip of fabric that's going to go all around the blouse. So what I'm going to do here is I just want to sew this like that. I'm going to align them well. And then what we just want to do is to sew it all across like this. So I'm going to do that for all 4 of them. So when I do that, I'm going to turn it right side out. What I'm doing here now is I'm overlapping this. So I've turned these right side out and I've ironed it. This is the sleeve. So I'm doing an overlap. This is 3 inches and I'm just going to hold this with a pin, and I'll do likewise with the other sleeve as well. Then I'm going to go to the sewing machine and I'm just going to sew this just to hold it in place. And once I'm done with that, the next thing I'll do is to join the side right here. So I'm going to join right here, and to join that, join both sides on the body of the blouse, and then I'm flipping it right side out, and I just want to align it and see where I need to start to do my joining for the sleeve. So what I'm just doing is I just align it to see where it's going to tally to the joining that I have for the main body of the blouse. So it's right here. So if I do this, I can see where that is, and that is the mark I've made here. So based on that, I'm just going to go down and sew this all the way down across like that. So I'm just going to go down and sew it for both of them, and then the next thing I'll do is to join it on here. Now I've joined the side of the sleeve. This is what it's looking like. So the next thing I'm going to do now, this is the front, and this is where it joins to the armpit area. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to match the blouse, and I'm opening my seam, and I'm just going to come and sew it all across like that, and then I'll come on the other side too and sew it all across. After joining the sleeves, what you're going to do next is, if you were not going to add an additional fabric, at this stage you can just fold this in like so and just create a casing depending on how wide you want it. Either you're using 1 inch elastic or maybe you're using 1/2 inch elastic. You just form a casing all across like that, and you leave a little bit of opening so you can pass your elastic through. But in this case, like I said, I'm using a different fabric. I'm going to be cutting a strip of fabric from here, and that's what is going to go on top of what I have right here. So what I'm going to do now is to measure what this is, and that will guide me in cutting my fabric. So I'm just going to measure this. This is double already, so I'm just measuring what I have here. I have 37.5 here approximately. Alternatively, you can also just open it. You can open it up and just measure across like that. I'm gonna fold it and measure 37, because when I did this, I had it as a double layer right here. So I'm folding this to measure my 37 inches. And if you don't have enough, you just have to cut several strips of fabric and you just join them together. So I have 37 here, but I'm going to leave an extra. I have 37 and a half. I'm going to leave 1 inch extra. And this is just because I want to be able to join them. I have to join one end of it. So I'm going to leave an extra for the joining. I'm folding it like this. I'll be using 1 inch wide elastic. And when you use the 1 inch wide elastic, if I have it this way, I'm going to have a sewing allowance of 1/2 inch. So I'm going to need 1 inch extra. So you can either do that, you can put a little bit more. You can have 1/4 so that you make it freer. It's just an option. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure 3.5 over here, so that by the time I turn it in and by the time I sew it on the fold, I'm going to end up with 1/4. So now I'm just going to cut this out. So what I have here is my 3.5 this way by a length of 37.5 from plus 1 inch. That's 38.5 on the fold, like that. So I need now to go and I'm going to join it at one end like that. Next thing to do after joining it is to now sew this to the main fabric that I have here. So I'm going to match this join into one of the places where I've joined the sleeve, so that those mark corresponds with each other. And I'm just going to pin it to that. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the sewing machine. What I'm doing here is right side to right side. So I'm going to go around and sew this all across. And then after I'm done sewing this all across, let me quickly pin it so I can demonstrate what I'm going to be doing next. So after I've sewn this all across, I'm going to now turn this black fabric in. I turn it in, I fold it in like that, about 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to keep this in where I've joined it. So I'm going to have what looks like this. So now I'm going to now sew this all across like so, but I'm going to leave a little opening for my elastic to go through. And when you fold it, you want to make sure that you have your 1 inch for your elastic. If you're using 1 inch of elastic, you want to make sure you have enough room for that 1 inch wide elastic to pass through. So this is the casing that I made. So I sewed it from here and I turned it over and tucked it in here, and I sewed it all around, and I left some part of it open for my elastic. And then what I simply did was to attach a safety pin, and I passed it through the casing and I brought it out from here. All right, and again I'm using a 1 inch wide elastic. And then what you want to do is you want to make sure that your elastic lies flat and it's not twisted in the casing. That's very important. And then you want to make sure that what you have here fits the person that is going to be wearing the top. You want to make sure, one way you can do it, you can either take a measurement all across that area where you want to start the off shoulder, and then you can now measure it to see if what you have here is enough. So again, you just want to make sure that you have this as snug as you want it. Whatever level of snugness you're looking for, this is where you adjust that. And when you have what you desire, you just want to come here, clip the elastic, and then you're going to now go to your sewing machine and you're going to sew the elastic together. We'll remove the safety pin. You sew this elastic together, and when you sew the elastic together, you now tuck it into the casing, after which we will now close up that casing. And again, this is what the sleeve looks like, and that completes our top. Oh, one last thing though, I'm going to go to the sewing machine and I'm going to do the bottom. We just turn it in twice and we hem it all across, and that will complete this top. So thank you for being a part of this video, and please leave me a thumbs up if you like the video. And also, if you've not yet subscribed to my channel, please do so right now by clicking the subscribe button below, and also the bell icon right there. Please remember to click that so that you'll get notified each time I have new videos.